Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1. Hey, you know that because I'm wearing this hat. And hey, if it's your birthday, happy birthday. Please enjoy this digital confection that I found for you. It's a thing I do here on ETCG1. Today's topic is probably going to make some of you a little bit mad, but that's not really my intention. I'm just sharing opinions and you can share yours in the comments when we're done. Anyway, I don't like SUVs. No, I don't. And I kind of never have, but yet I just bought one. I just bought a Honda Pilot and I'm going to play around with that a little bit. I'll do another video going over the specifics of that vehicle and all the things I find or did not find within it. But today I'd like to talk about SUVs in general and how I think, well, they've always been a waste from the beginning, but yet they're so darn popular. And that always kind of bothered me a little bit. In fact, working for Honda/Acura back in the day, Honda got into the SUV game late. In fact, their early Passports and what was the Acura version called? It's embarrassing that I don't remember that because I hated them so much. But they were actually Isuzus. They weren't Hondas at all. So Honda was like, we didn't bother doing any development on an SUV, but we can always work something out with GM, and that's what they did. So the early Honda SUVs, the Passports and I can't remember what they called the Acura. I know you're going to remind me. Anyway, that was an Isuzu Trooper. It wasn't a Honda. That being said, I'd say about late 90s, early 2000s is when SUVs really started to become all the rage, and people started buying them up like hotcakes. And you know, that's around the time that a lot of vehicles got smaller. And I think SUVs were sort of a pushback to that. We're like, we don't really want small vehicles. We want to stay in large vehicles. We want to be able to tow things like maybe a boat or a camper or something like that. That makes sense. But this whole all-wheel drive thing or four-wheel drive thing of SUVs, how often do most of the people driving SUVs actually use that? I don't think they use it all that often, and I think they're just wasting fuel in the process. I mean, maybe one time on a camping trip, it got a little muddy and they turned on the four-wheel driver, actually had a chance to use it, and that was it. Other than that is trip to the grocery stores and the hair salon. And I know some of you out there, I mean, have an SUV and might use it because you're dealing with, you know, off-road situations and inclement weather, things like that. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the majority of people who seem to be using them to go to Costco to pick up paper towels and toilet paper. That's what I'm referring to. I'm not really referring to those people who might actually use such a thing. But I also think SUVs in a way were sort of an end run around emission laws because they fell under trucks and they didn't necessarily fall under cars. But either way, they became popular because you, the general populace, started buying them. And this is what I saw as a mechanic on the other side of that. Everybody was like, oh great, I want to get an SUV. And they get an SUV, then they come in for their first service. Oh, that'll be about $1,200, sir or madam. And they're like, what? My sedan never cost me that much. Just in tires alone, you're talking $800 on the low side. Probably more like $1,200 to $1,500 just to replace a set of tires on one of these, not to mention the alignment, especially if you're dealing with all-wheel drive components and all that kind of stuff. Not to mention the maintenance costs. Once again, you've got extra differentials to do stuff with. You've got, you know, other things that need to be looked after in an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive system that you don't have in a normal car. That's usually when they got turned in, and you know, when they didn't get the maintenance done. So then comes the unsuspecting person saying, wow, well, that SUV is a lot more affordable now that it's on the used car lot. I think I'll buy it. Well, then they find out that none of the maintenance was done, and now they're saddled with that, and they're spending almost as much money, well, a third of the money that they spent on the SUV on the maintenance to get it going again. So if you're in a financially strapped situation, I strongly recommend avoiding an SUV at all costs, especially a used SUV. Not to mention being in the Bay. SUV tires are big, they're heavy. You know, having to take those up and down and off of SUVs is kind of a pain. Good workout, great, but you know, if you got back problems, knee problems, stuff like that, it's not so great. SUVs were not my favorite vehicles to work on, let me tell you. So here I am, an SUV owner. I don't even really like them. I've never liked them, and I never saw the point. I'm a minivan guy. I mean, if you want to move people, get a minivan. You got those big doors that open up. You can get things in and out of it really easy. You can get to the back row seating easier. In an SUV, you have to like usually climb over stuff to get to that next row of seating. It's really just a big car in my mind, just a bigger version of a car. It's nothing special, really, to me, nothing special. Sorry if I'm making you mad. Sorry, not sorry. And here's the other thing about SUVs that I find often. Whenever I'm driving in the winter and there's inclement weather or something like that, you know what I see in the ditch most often? Yep, you guessed it, SUVs. For some reason, people think they're invincible when they're getting behind the wheel of an SUV, and they've got four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Oh, this weather means nothing to me. That's why I paid all this money in maintenance and payments and all that kind of stuff for this kind of thing. And then they spin out and they end up in the ditch. And that's super unfortunate, but they inspire this overconfidence in some people in inclement weather. In my mind, it's all about the tires. It's all literally where the rubber meets the road. If you've got crappy tires on an all-wheel drive SUV, you might as well be, well, not even on ice skates, because you'd have better handling on ice skates, believe me. But you'd just be basically skidding across the road. So that kind of overconfidence, I think, doesn't play well into my opinions of SUVs and working on them and all the things that I mentioned. But I'm waiting for you in the comments to tell me about all the reasons that I'm wrong. Also consider this. I purchased one, so I'm gonna spend some time with an SUV and see if I can buy into what this is all about, and maybe my mind will be changed. I don't know. I don't think so, especially once I figure out what's wrong with this thing and how much work I'm going to have to do to it to make it a reliable vehicle. Anyway, those are my opinions about SUVs. What are your opinions about SUVs? That's what comments are for. Please leave them. Please also like and subscribe as well. I like it when you do that. And if you have automotive questions, I'll put a link in the description to ericthecarguy.com that you can go to and get all kinds of answers on stuff. Also, links to additional videos and stuff like that that you might find interesting. So check the description for additional stuff. Thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I will see you next time.